In her village, people often wondered why she always washed her meat at the stream every morning. Watch till the end to find out. A story written by Christy Midnight Tales. In the small village of Dago, everybody knew Mama Ebra. She was a widow, quiet but strong. She had just one child, a little boy named Ebra, who was 7 years old, clever for his age, and always by her side. Before her troubles began, Mama Ebra lived a simple life. She loved her husband dearly. He was a kind man, a hunter who would go deep into the forest every morning and return with bush meat for the village market. Life wasn't perfect, but it was enough. The villagers respected them, and her home was always filled with laughter. Especially when little Ebra ran around playing around their hut, but life can change in an instant. One morning, her husband went into the forest as usual. He kissed Mama Ebra on the cheek, hugged little Ebra tightly, and promised he would return by evening. But evening came, and he did not. Days turned into nights, and still no sign of him. Hunters searched everywhere, the streams, the deep forest, even the hills, but they found only his gun lying near the river. His body had vanished. From that day, Mama Ebra became a widow. She cried for days, her eyes swollen and her heart heavy. Little Ebra would try to console her, saying, "Mama, he will come back." But she only shook her head. Knowing the truth, for weeks, she stayed home, doing little, thinking about how she would feed her son. Then one morning, as the first light of dawn broke through the thatched roofs of the village, Mama Ebra made a decision. She would not die of hunger. She would not let Ebra go hungry either, so she began cooking and selling food. At first, people bought out of pity. They saw the little boy with the tears in his eyes, and their hearts softened. But after tasting her food, pity changed to respect, and respect quickly became admiration. Mama Ebra's meals were different. Her soups had flavors that seemed to sing on the tongue. Her pepper soup made men who usually scoffed at anything spicy come back for more. Her rice was always fluffy, her meat soft and perfectly cooked. Even before other women had started selling in the market, Mama Ebra's food was ready, and it sold faster than anyone could imagine. Her shop, a simple wooden stall in the center of the village, was soon always full. Villagers came in the mornings, in the afternoons, sometimes even late in the evenings. Travelers who passed through the village would hear about her food and stop just to taste it. The children of the village loved her, too. They would run ahead, shouting, "Mama Ebra's food is ready." Their laughter filled the air, and Mama Ebra would smile, serving them plates of food generously. But with success came curiosity and murmurs. How does she cook so fast? Why does her food always taste better than ours? Some women tried copying her recipes. They used the same ingredients, the same spices, even the same firewood. But no matter what they did, their meals were never the same. Mama Ebra's food had something they could not name. Still, she said nothing. She simply walked, smiled at her customers, and went home to her son in the evenings. Yet there was something strange about Mama Ebra, something the villagers could not ignore. Every morning, before the sun rose, when the village was still quiet and the roosters had barely crowed, Mama Ebra would walk to the village stream, carrying a large basin. She would wade into the water, kneel by the bank, and wash the meat she had bought the day before. Not just a little meat, plenty of meat. Meat enough for the entire village market. Some women saw her there and whispered among themselves, "Why does she wash it so early? Why in the stream? Can't she wash it at home? See how much she brings. No woman can sell like this." But every day, no matter how much they whispered, people never stopped coming to her shop. If anything, more people came, drawn by the mysterious aroma of her cooking and the flavor that no one else could match. Mama Ebra said nothing about the stream. She never answered questions. She just washed her meat, sometimes humming a tune her husband used to whistle, covered the basin carefully, and returned home. The villagers began watching her secretly. Mothers would peek from their windows, men would try to follow her footsteps, and children would stare, wondering what secret she held. But one thing was clear: Mama Ebra's food never finished, and her meat never ran out, and that was when the whispers turned to concern. "She goes to the stream too early," people whispered, every morning, without fail. "What is she doing there? Why does she wash so much meat?" Even the elders could not understand. They called a village meeting under the big Iroko tree. Heads bent low as they discussed. "Something is not right," Elder Chima said, stroking his white beard. "I have lived many years, and I have never seen a woman wash meat like this. Why doesn't she wash it in her house? And worse still, she washes it at the forbidden stream." Many others nodded. Suggestions were thrown into the air. Maybe she was hiding something, maybe it was a blessing, maybe something else. But no one could come up with an answer. It was then that Ikena, one of the bravest hunters in the village, decided he would find out the truth himself. He rose before dawn the next day, carrying his bow and quiver silently on his back. He kept his steps light, careful not to alert anyone. His heart pounded with excitement and a little fear, but he told himself, "I must see for myself." Mama Ebra, as usual, had left her house before the sun had even risen. Little Ebra was still asleep. She carried her basin and walked toward the stream. Ikena followed at a safe distance, hiding behind trees and bushes. The morning was quiet, almost too quiet. Birds chirped faintly, and the stream water glimmered under the rising sun. Mama Ebra reached the stream. She knelt by the bank, dipped her basin into the water, and began washing the meat with careful hands. She hummed a tune softly, a tune that sounded like it belonged to another world, one that made Ikena freeze in his hiding spot. Then it happened. The water around her started to bubble strangely, twisting and turning as though it were alive. The reflections on the stream's surface twisted into shapes Ikachuku could not understand. Ripples grew into small waves, and the basin of meat began to glow faintly under the sunlight. Ikena's hands shook. In his panic, he dropped his bow, and the wooden stalk cracked against a stone with a loud snap. Mama Ebra stopped singing. She turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. "Who is there?" Her voice rang across the stream. Ikena's heart stopped. It felt like the world had gone still. His legs moved on their own. He ran past the stream. He ran past the outskirts of his village. He ran through the path he had known since he was a child. He did not stop. He did not look back. By the time he reached another village, he was gasping for breath, his legs weak from fear. He never returned to Umidike. The next day, people asked where Ikena had gone. Nobody knew. Some said he left the village for good. Some whispered that he had seen something no man was meant to see. Mama Ebra, as always, returned home before the sun was high. She carried her washed meat, placed it carefully in her basin, and walked past the village silently, leaving no trace of what had happened at the stream. But from that day, everyone knew, Mama Ebra's secret was not for mortal eyes. After the disappearance of Ikena, the mamas in Umidike grew louder than ever. "Something is not right with Mama Ebra," people whispered. "She goes to that stream every morning. The meat, it's too much, it's too strange." The elders called another meeting, this time in the evening, under the big Iroko tree. They sat in circles, faces serious, brows furrowed. "We cannot let this continue," Elder Chima said, his voice deep. "If Mama Ebra's food is a blessing, why is it that no one can explain what happens at the stream? And now our bravest hunter is gone." Other villagers nodded. Some were scared, others were angry. Finally, they agreed they would go to the stream, with a basin of meat themselves, to see what Mama Ebra really did. The next morning, a group of villagers gathered. They carried a bowl of unwashed meat, the same kind Mama Ebra always used. Some held sticks. Others clutched charms or crosses. But fear was heavy in their hearts. When they reached the stream, it was eerily quiet. The sun had barely risen, and a thick mist hung over the water. The gentle sound of water flowing made their skin crawl. The eldest among them, Elder Obina, stepped forward. His hands shook slightly as he held a piece of the meat over the stream. He whispered a prayer and dropped it into the water. Nothing happened. The villagers exhaled slowly, relief washing over them. "See," one of the young men whispered. "It's just a stream. Nothing strange." They dropped a second piece of meat. Still nothing, hearts beating faster. The villagers prepared to drop the third piece, when suddenly, the water in the stream stirred on its own. The mist swirled violently. The surface of the water bubbled, as though something enormous was moving beneath. Then they saw it. A creature emerged. It had the body of a mermaid, glistening scales that shimmered under the weak sunlight, but its head had horns curling like a ram's. Its eyes were black, deep, and hollow. Then the mermaid said,
You have seen how you defeat me, otherwise you will vanish forever.
The villagers froze for a second too long. Then fear took over, they screamed, they ran for their lives, the old men shouted, the women screamed, the children clutched their mothers' skirts. They ran past the fields, past the huts, and didn't stop until they reached the safety of their homes. No one looked back, no one spoke of it for days, but from that moment on, Mama Ebra's secret was no longer just a rumor. The stream was alive with something no one dared explain, something that would guard her meat and her food forever, and the villagers knew one thing for sure: Mama Ebra was not just a widow selling food. She was something else entirely. After the terrifying encounter at the stream, the villagers were restless. Their hearts pounded at every sound: the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, even the distant crowing of roosters. Fear had taken root, but curiosity was stronger. They could not leave it alone. They had to know the truth, so, early the next morning, a group of villagers ran to Mama Ebra's shop. Their hands trembled, some clutched sticks for protection, others held charms or crossed themselves quietly. Little Ebra stood behind his mother, peeking curiously, unaware of the fear his village carried. Mama Ebra was calm. She was stirring her large pot of rich, steaming stew, the aroma filling the air, thick and inviting. She looked up slowly, her eyes meeting theirs. A small, knowing smile tugged at the corner of her lips. I hope you have seen what you were looking for, she said softly. Her voice was steady, unshaken, like a calm river in the middle of a storm. The villagers froze. Elder Chima, hands trembling, finally found his voice. Mama Ebra, what is happening at the stream? What have we seen? Why is there a mermaid? He shouted, almost tripping over his words. Mama Ebra set down her wooden spoon gently and wiped her hands on her wrapper. She took a deep breath, then began speaking. It all happened one Saturday morning. After buying my meat from the market, she said, I decided to pass by the stream to wash it. The stream is close to the market, and I wanted to save water for my home. That was all my intention. Nothing more, nothing less. The villagers blinked, confused. They looked at one another, unsure. Her words sounded so normal, yet their minds still held the memory of the horned mermaid rising from the water. When I got to the water, I started washing the meat. The blood from the meat was flowing endlessly, and then out of nowhere, the mermaid came out. It said it was drawn by the blood from the meat, and no, I was meant to see it. But since I have set my eyes on it, I will have to feed it, otherwise I will vanish forever. The villagers gasped. Some dropped to their knees. Some clutched their heads in disbelief. Elder Chima's beard trembled as he whispered, a mermaid. All this time, she demanded it for survival. Mama Ebra continued softly, her voice calm but steady. And I obeyed. Every day I went to the stream to feed her, because if I didn't, I would vanish, and Ebra my son would be left alone in this world. A heavy silence fell. The fear in the villagers' hearts clashed with relief. Relief that Mama Ebra was not evil, relief that her actions had a reason, and relief that the mermaid's demands were not her doing. Why didn't you tell us? Elder Chima asked, his voice shaking. Would you have believed me? Mama Ebra asked quietly. Her eyes scanned the crowd. Do you understand now? No one had an answer. The fear in their hearts was still strong, but their respect for her courage had grown tenfold. They had judged her too quickly, and now they realized her strength to protect her child and herself from a creature no human was meant to face. The villagers decided to act. They went to a native doctor, a wise old herbalist who had dealt with spirits before. He gave them a powerful herb, saying it could drive the mermaid away permanently. He warned them, it would not be easy. The mermaid's power was strong, and fear could weaken them. The next morning, Mama Ebra walked with the villagers to the stream. Her heart was steady. Mama Ebra set her basin of meat at the water's edge, just as she had done countless mornings before. She poured the first piece of meat into the stream. The water began to swirl, just like before. Mist rolled along the surface. The villagers held their breath, then the mermaid emerged. Its scales shimmered with an unnatural light. Her horns curved sharply, her black eyes glared at them, and her mouth opened, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. Mama Ebra stood her ground. The villagers, although scared, scattered the herbal mixture into the water. The moment it touched the stream, the mermaid let out a loud scream, shook itself violently, and suddenly began to vanish. After the wave of violence, the water calmed, the mist dissipated, and the horned figure disappeared, leaving nothing behind but the quiet, still stream. Mama Ebra exhaled, a deep, heavy sigh that seemed to release years of fear and tension. She looked at the villagers. "It is done," she said simply. "The stream is free. I no longer have to go there every morning." The villagers stared at her in awe. Their fear was gone, replaced by respect and wonder. They had witnessed the truth. They had helped her, and together, they had defeated a creature no one else could have faced. From that day on, Mama Ebra's shop became legendary. Her food was still the best in the village, but now, people also whispered of her courage, her wisdom, and the mysterious, incredible secret she had faced, a mermaid that drank from her meat, demanding respect from a woman brave enough to survive. Mama Ebra returned to her daily life. Little Ebra played around her feet. She stirred her stew, smiled at the villagers who came to buy her food, and for the first time in many years, she felt truly free. The story of the stream, the mermaid, and Mama Ebra's courage would be told for generations. Thanks for watching this amazing story, and don't forget to leave us a beautiful comment, like and subscribe to our channel. Your support gives us the courage to do more. I remain Christy Midnight Tales, bringing you the best midnight tales. See you again in my next story, and bye.